Welcome back. Thanks for coming back. It's week 2 of College Admissions is Broken with your host, Labs. All right. Coming with love and respect today. Coming with love and respect because I blamed you last episode. But we want to see every piece of college admissions. Okay. Today we're going to talk about the rankings. We're finally going to get deep in to a topic, but I don't think you want like a 45-minute explanation, but I will give you like 3 points. Okay. College admission rankings are nonsense. I'm going to prove that to you today. But the problem, which I know is going to come up, is you can convince us, but that's the way it is. You know, things are the way they are, and that's life. And normally I would agree with you on this because, you know, we all talk about things how we want them to be. One of my favorite TV shows is The Wire from HBO. Have you seen The Wire? There's a scene where Marlo, who's like a gangster, steals some candy. He's got millions of dollars, or I don't know, thousands of dollars, but he steals some candy. And the security guard wants to yell at him, but he knows he can't because he's Marlo the gangster, right? And so he's like, hey, you can't steal that candy. And Marlo kind of eats the candy and goes, you want it to be, I'm probably going to mess up the quote, but he says, you want it to be a certain way, but it's the other way, right? And there's a lot of wisdom in that. There's a lot of things in life like that. But I don't want you to say that about this because it's just a rankings list that's produced by a magazine. Magazines are dying. The U.S. News and World Report magazine, I don't even know has any circulation anymore. So none of you subscribe to this magazine, and probably 100% of their revenue is this stupid rankings list. So we don't have to do it this way. Now, the guy who started these rankings is a smart dude, and he's well-meaning. And I went through, because on the website they'll tell you the methodology, and I haven't done this in probably 9 years, but I went through and looked at everything and wrote like a 15,000 word hit piece that no one's going to read, so I never did anything with it. But I'll give you some of the basics about why all of this makes no sense. And the easiest way to explain it is to imagine for a second we made a new university. Okay, we can call it Labounty University. And Labounty University goes about and gets $1 billion in funding from somebody. All billionaires in 2024 are basically dopes in this country. Reed Hastings gives us $1 billion. He cares about education. I think he's a good billionaire. Anyway, he gives us $1 billion and we go about our business making the best university in the country. And it's very small, and we just, we find out what's the best engineering lab in the country, and we make it a new one that's better. And what's the best professor of physics, and we find out who that person is. Let's just assume, for the sake of this exercise, that we get the best physics professor, the best English professor, the best everything professor, best facilities, best everything. But we're still going to be on the bottom of the rankings. How's that possible? Because they can't measure the actual quality of the education. And they know that. So it's not their fault. They can't go to every college and take a class, right? And even if they did that, it wouldn't be, fair for all the other classes they didn't go to. So if you imagine restaurant reviews, I'm going to eat the lasagna, and then next week I'm going to go have the carbonara, and then I'm going to talk about the servers. Were they watching TikTok on their phone, or did they come check on me? How's the wine list? Okay, I'm going to check everything about a restaurant, and then I'm going to write, I don't know, some kind of review. Let's say it's the New York Times, and you're going to say, oh, well, this guy went 4 times, and I believe his review. That's not how the college rankings are. They don't even go. They don't know. So how do they pick? They knew this from the beginning. So what they said was, we need to put together a list of reputational rankings. And that makes sense because you're well, schools must have a good reputation. Okay, but who are we going to ask? Who are we going to ask? We're going to ask the alumni. They're biased. They just went to that school. We're going to ask some person that has 3 people on their staff. of the 3 people on your staff, which one seems to be the smartest? Well, that's not fair. You know, there's some people that are just really good at their jobs and it has nothing to do with college, what they went to, whatever. So we can have 1,000 of these arguments about how we're going to figure out how we're going to decide just on a reputational basis whether a school should be ranked high or ranked low. And this is where LeBounty U is going to be ranked low, because one of the things on the list, the factor that makes the most difference is reputation by asking presidents of the universities. Makes sense. These people work at a university, they must know about other universities. But then you're like, no, they don't. Max, maybe they worked at 3 different ones. Probably only worked at 2 or 1. So actually they don't know. But we think they know because they're presidents of universities. They must see these people at like conferences or something. And one of the most famous like embarrassments of this question was, let's put together a list. I'm just giving you one example. Let's put together a list of the top law schools in the country. I think this was in a Malcolm Gladwell piece that's pretty good about this. I'll see if I can find it. Anyway, top law schools, and Penn State was on the list. Makes sense. Penn State's a big school. They got a good football team. They're in the Northeast where most of the historic colleges that people are talking about are located. Problem, Penn State did not have a law school. On the list, doesn't even have a law school. They do now. So you cannot trust these people, not because they're doing something wrong, because they just don't know. Those are some of the worst people probably to ask, right? Because they're gonna do it based on reputation. Reputation depends on a lot of things. Depends on where you're from. I'm from California. Okay, I have never heard of a lot of these liberal arts schools that exist on the East Coast, just because I'm from California and because I'm from a working class background. People from working class backgrounds do not know what Williams College is. They do not know what Swarthmore is. They do not know what Wellesley College is. Okay, they don't know those things, and those are excellent colleges. So stop asking people. Okay, that's number one. The rankings are based on asking people. You can't do that. The second thing is, we know the rankings must not be effective if you can game them. Because if something was measuring quality, you can't just suddenly change it and now it's good. Okay, especially something as complicated as education. It either is a top 10 school or it's not a top 10 school. And some nerds sitting in the basement of a college coming up with how to break the rankings and game them couldn't possibly do that if it was real. And that's what has been happening. So let's shout out a couple schools that are famous for this. And I'm pretty sure they don't even mind people knowing that they're famous for this. One of them is one of my alma maters, Northeastern. I have a master's degree from Northeastern. Northeastern was the school that I decided to go to get my teaching credential because it was cheaper and nobody was going to give me a hard time in the application process. That's why I went. I had already gotten an MBA from BU, and Northeastern's a fabulous school, but at the time wasn't highly selective. I wasn't going to get a hard time, and I was going to save money. Northeastern now has got a single-digit acceptance rate for undergrads. And if it's not single digits, it's like 11. Okay, it's something like that. How did so many things change? Maybe some things changed. Maybe they hired some better professors. Maybe they did some improvements to the curriculum. Who knows? But it's been gamed. Washington University in St. Louis, famous for this. Why? Because they're low on the list. Because people, the university presidents who are asked questions, they know about Washington University, but it might be like low on their list because they're thinking first about Harvard and Princeton and MIT. So how are they going to change that? They're going to game other parts of the algorithm. Okay. For example, one of the things, now we're getting to the second thing that's part of the algorithm, is selectivity. Once again, well-meaning. If a school is so popular that people want to apply there in huge numbers, and the school can't possibly take all those people, it must mean something about that school's quality. So selectivity is going to be one of the most important things we're going to put in the algorithm. You can game that tomorrow. How do you game it tomorrow? You just start rejecting people. Yeah, but Chris, we can't reject all these people because we need to fill the slots that the school has, of course. So how are we going to solve it? Well, we just got to get more people to apply. And why do you think, if you're a parent, if you're a student, you know this, every day you get 600 spams. And we get mad because students don't answer their email. They don't look at their email. They have no idea what's going on with their email. They have 30,000 unread messages because every day 600 of those are spam trying to get you to apply. In a lot of cases, just to reduce their acceptance rate so they can reject you. Well, that's fun. We're just going to reject people for fun now. Admissions counselors go on recruitment travel. Get their stupid briefcase and go to high schools. Why? More applicants to deny. Even MIT does this. Even Harvard does this. Even Princeton does this. What are you making these people go out? Because we got to give them do something. These young people, we got to hammer on them a little bit. We're going to make them fly to random places and do recruitment travel so we can deny more people. Okay, selectivity is a thing that can be gamed, and it's not really that important. Selectivity also is different depending on a lot of other things that have nothing to do with the university. Selectivity could be, well, Purdue is a lot easier to get into than some other engineering schools. Could it be nothing to do with the quality of education at Purdue, but could it be that West Lafayette, Indiana is not an easy place for people to get to, especially from other countries? Or that it's in the middle of nowhere and people don't really know about it or where it exists? Could it be any of those other things? Sure. Okay. Selectivity is the second one. They put in the algorithm selectivity. What did I miss? I wanted to do 3. The third, I'm back because I had to find, there's 7, there might be 8 now, different things that go into the algorithm. I just want to give you 3. The third one I'll give you today is that one of the things they put in the algorithm is, to what extent do alumni give to their university? Once again, well-meaning. If people loved their education, that must mean something about the quality of the university. What ways can we measure whether they loved their university? By giving money to the university. We don't really want to send surveys out to every person in America and say, where'd you go to college? In our times now, if you follow sports, you'll know that alumni giving is pretty complicated and has almost nothing to do with the quality of the education that exists at that university. They could be giving money because they want to buy quarterbacks for their teams, for their football teams. They could be giving money because historically that's what rich people do at Ivy League colleges. You and I, unless you're a rich person watching this, will never understand why somebody's will has in it a $400 million gift to Harvard. I can't understand it. You probably can't understand it either. What ways can you use $400 million that is better than giving it to Harvard, which has a multi-billion-dollar endowment and does not need $400 million more dollars? Their endowment spits out millions of dollars in interest every year. They don't need more money. Yet people drop bombs of cash on them for reasons that you and I will never understand. I don't understand it. If you wanted to give away $400 million, you would think that you would be thinking of all kinds of different cool ways. There's probably 2,000 cool ways you can give away $400 million. Maybe you just want to give it to your kid. Even that is less useless than giving it to Harvard, but it happens. Okay. So there's a lot of schools. For some reason, there's a lot of giving. There's a lot of schools. For some reason, there's less giving. And I don't know what you think about that, but I don't think it should go into the algorithm to decide how we're going to rank the schools. So let's go back to LaBounty University. We got the best faculty. We got the best facilities. We've got everything you could possibly need. But we're going to fail on the 3 things I mentioned today, because we're going to fail on academic reputation by presidents because they don't know we exist. We're going to fail on alumni giving because we don't have any alumni, or if we do, we might tell them, don't give us money. We have tons. We got it from Reed Hastings. And the third one is that we're going to fail on selectivity because we may decide, that we're going to accept a lot more people than other people do. Maybe we're going to not do any recruitment travel. Maybe we're going to be like in stealth mode, as the startup founders say. And then we're only going to maybe select some kids. We're going to find them. We're going to give them a letter. We're going to say, you're in. Our selectivity is 100%. We're going to get crushed in the rankings. Is that a good measure for you to decide where you want to go to college or your son or daughter wants to go to college? It clearly is not. And I know you're going to say, but Chris, that's just the way it is. Does not have to be this way. And your second question is going to be, well, how am I supposed to choose then? Well, it's hard, but we will discuss how to choose on the section of building a college list. And some of it's going to be a little bit subjective and loosey-goosey, and you're not going to like it. You're going to prefer that there are numbers, such as, are there 30 kids or less in the classroom? That's another number they game. How do you game that number? Well, because we, for some reason, no parents care about this number, we need our number of students per classroom to be lower. So let's add a whole bunch of random seminar classes with 5 kids in it. But the normal classroom is just the same as it always is. When you take Geology 101, it's going to be in a big auditorium with 300 people. It doesn't matter that the average is 25 and the other school's average is 30, because you have no idea that when you get there, you're going to take Geology 101, there's going to be 300 people in there. Okay? But these kind of numbers give us an opportunity to game it. So I hope that helped. I know it helps because I want you to stop thinking about the rankings. The question is, will anyone care? Well, I care. And everyone who says it is what it is, Chris. Well, if that were the way it is, then we wouldn't do anything. Thanks for being here. I'll see you either tomorrow or the next few days. Okay, bye.